Hello student. Now in this video I am going to discuss about one of the important concept of Java language is Java array. Then I will discuss about what is multithreading. These are very two important concepts that I am going to discuss with you. Now first of all, what is the Java array? Java array basically it is a collection of similar type of data. So for example, you have a 10 integers. 10, 20, 30. It is a collection of 3 integers. So we can call as an array. So basically we can say that array is a similar type of data. Different type of data is not included in the array. Suppose one element of character, one element of float, which is not the part of the array. Array meaning is only the similar type of data. Now, how will you declare the array in the Java language? So, whenever you are going to declare the an array, first write the type of the array, for example int, then write the name of the variable, name of the array, and these two brackets are important. These two brackets define that we have declared an array. If you are not using this bracket, it is a simple variable. So these two brackets are very important. Now very important part in Java language is that whenever you declare a array, no memory is allocated here. There is a no memory allocation. So to allocate the memory to the array, we need to use the new operator. So after the declaration, you will write here name of the variable, then write the new operator, then write the type. Type is for example int. So then write the number of variables. Number of variables is 3. So total 3 variables will be, or you can say 3 location will be stored in the room number. I am going to discuss with an example. To define any program in Java language, first of all we have to start from a class. So we have a class name here. The name of the class is defined. Then we have a main method. Now here you can see we have declared an array, then we allocate the memory to this array of type 3 integers. Now to access an array, suppose 3 integers are defined here. These are 3 integers. First location will be indexed as 0. Second location will be indexed as 1. Third location will be indexed as 2. So whenever you are accessing an array, you need to access with the help of index number. So first of all you write the array name, then within the bracket you write the index number. 0 meaning is you are accessing the first location and assigning the value, that is we are assigning the 20 here. Index number 1 meaning is we are accessing this second location. Very important part is that whenever you are using the array, it must start from 0. So we have 1 meaning is second location, 30 will be allocated here. Next we have third, this is the second location. Third location, it will be accessed with the help of index number 2. Again it will move to here. So you can see that in this location we are storing the number 35. So what is our understanding is that array is a single variable it is a single variable, and in a single variable we have multiple location. Only important part is that all the locations should be of similar type. This is very important part. Now what is the advantage? With the help of the for loop you can access all the variables, all the locations of a single variable. So suppose we are using the for loop. I think you know all what is the for loop in Java language. Now to access the array, we use here index number, that is room is the array number, and I will move from 0 to 2. So at the 0 location it will display some value, at the 1 location it will display some value, at the 2 location it will display some value. So this is a simple program. Now I want to run this program in the NetBeans. So you will be more familiar how to run the program in the NetBeans, and how will you create the project in the NetBeans, how will you create a class in the NetBeans, and how will you run the program. Now I am running this program. So you can see it is a NetBeans software. First of all, I want to discuss about how will you create the project in the NetBeans. Go to the file, go to the new project, then select the Java, then select the Java application. Then go to the next. Here you can give any project name. For example, its project name is Java array, and finish here. Now here you can see that a project is created, Java array. Now to work on the NetBeans, very important part, one of the folder is source package. When you open the source package, then a file will be there, Java array. Here the Java array class is already created, and there are many libraries are already attached. So here I am going to discuss, I discussed recently that how to create the new project. Next part we have the same program, array demo 1, that I recently discussed. I am going to run this program so that you can see what will be the output of this program. This is class name is array demo 1. You can see we have the same program. To run this program, click on the file, right click, run the file. Now you can see the output. Room number is 20, room number is 30, and room number is 35. Okay. Now I am going to discuss the next program for related to Java language. Next program is how will you take the input from the user. Now in the Java language, it is not easy to take the input from the user. You need to create the object of a particular class. Here we have created the object of a class of scanner class. Like in C language you are using the scanf to take the value, but in the Java it is not easy, because it is an object-oriented programming language. So you need to follow the classes, then the objects. So scanner is a ready-made class, and it is included in java.util.Scanner, and we have created an object of sc new scanner system.in. Now sc is created. Next part is to take the value from the user, store into the array. So you can see we have to use the for loop. This is the beauty of the array. One variable, just apply the for loop and you will access one by one every location of the array. Then we are using system.out.println, enter your number. Then important part is object. Then there is a method to get the integer from the user is next int. When we use this object and method next int, it will take the value from the user and store this value in a variable num. Next part is to store this value into the array location. I discussed about array location start from 0. So at this location, whatever the value you are giving, it will be stored in a particular index. Next, we have a for loop to display the value. So this is a second program. How will you get the value from the user and store in the array? You will get the value from the user with the help of object of scanner class. Next, I am going to discuss about two-dimensional array, and changing the type of the variable is float. Now in this program we have a float variable, then a variable is defined. Now to define the two-dimensional array, what we have to do? We have to use two brackets here for the two-dimensional array. Now at this point, there is no memory allocation. No memory allocation. Now the memory is allocated with the help of new operator. And number of rows are 2 and number of columns are 3. When we are using the two-dimensional array, then we need to use the two for loop. First for loop is for moving from row wise, row 1, row 2. So row again start from the 0 index, and to move from column, start from 0 to less than 3, because the number of columns are 3. So it will take 0, 1 and 2. It is a nested for loop. This is the higher for loop, this is the inner for loop. Then we are using SC object, which is already created to get a value from user. Then I use a method next float. The value will be taken from the user, stored in a variable num. Then we are using INJ because it is a two-dimensional array. If it is a one-dimensional array, it will take only one index, one bracket. If there is a two-dimensional array, so we are using the two bracket here, one for row and this is for column. Now after taking the value from the user, again we need to use two for loops to display the value. So the first for loop is to navigate row wise, second for loop is to navigate column wise. So this example demonstrating that how will you create a two-dimensional array. Now I am running these two programs. This is the first program I am running. How will get the value from the user. Second, I am going to run the program. This is how will you work on two-dimensional array. Now you all can see that this is the array demo 2 and we have scanner class. We have created SC object and I am running this program. Okay, so when you run this program, you can give the value here. For example, given the value 2, 3, 4. So we have given 2, 3, 4, 3 value have given because the size of the array is 3. So it will take 3 value. Next program is for the two-dimensional array. This is a program in the NetBeans. We have a two-dimensional array of type float and we have created an object to get the value from user. Now I am running this program, array demo 3. Now enter your number, for example 4, 5, 6, 78. You can give floating point number also, 3.6, and you can see it is a 2-dimensional array. It has 2 rows and 3 columns. So I am running these 2 programs. How will you run the program and what will be the output? Next I am going to discuss another part of the Java array. Now this is the program. How will you initialize the variable in the Java language? I already told, when we declare this variable, no memory is allocated. To allocate the memory, we have to use this new operator. But at the time of initialization, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 12. It is declared also and memory is also allocated. Very important part. Again I am repeating. When you declare it, then you have to use the new operator. When you initialize it, memory is automatically allocated in the array. So this is the program. How will you initialize an array? With the help of these 2 brackets. Next part is, generally we are declare the array with the help of this putting the bracket after the variable. Now there is an alternate way to declare a variable. What is the alternate way? Just put the bracket before the variable, not after the variable. Generally we are creating the array right here, int a and bracket. So do not write here bracket. You can write the bracket here, int bracket a. Both are same. It is something different in Java language. So you can declare the variable of an array of this type also. What is the advantage? Advantage is, with the help of this notation, you can declare more than one variable. For example, int bracket, we have declared 3 variables at a time, a1, a2, a3. Meaning is 3 arrays are defined, a1, a2, a3 in single line. It is same as this one, int a1 bracket, a2 bracket, a3 bracket. So it is your way. How will you declare a variable? Either you use this alternate way or use this formal approach. In this formal approach, you have to write the a1 then bracket, a2 then bracket, a3 then bracket. Now in the alternate approach, you just write one bracket and you can declare name of the variables. This is the alternate way of creating the array in Java language. It is an example to create a variable in the alternate way. So we have a AVR, it is an array of type character. Now bracket is defined here. Generally we have created the array with the help of this way, character, and write AVR, then write the bracket. Just put the bracket here. This way is also an array can be created. Then we allocate the memory with the help of new operator. Then same approach is there. We are taking the inputs from the user and after that storing the value, we are displaying the value to the user. So I talk about different approach for declaring a variable. Next, again a very important and beautiful thing in Java language. It is possible we can have multi-dimensional array of different size. It is possible. we have 3 row 0, 1 and 2. First row with 3 columns, second row with only 2 columns, and third row is 3 columns. So we have a number of different columns in each row which is possible in the array. So we have created a variable avr, then we have a new operator, then int 3. Now very important part is here. Whenever you are going to create a different columns array, or you can different dimensions, it is a 2-dimensional but the number of columns are different. In that case, very important part is leftmost dimension must be given. Only one dimension must be given. So we have given 3 here. So number of rows will be 3. Then separately you can declare number of columns by allocating the memory. Then we have avr0. We are going to allocate the memory with 2 columns. So we write here new, int and 2. So we have the 2 columns, memory is allocated. Then in the second row, we have used 3 columns. You can see the first row has 2 columns, second row has 3 columns. Just drawing here, it has 2 columns, it has 3 columns. Now this one has 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have different number of columns in each row. It is possible in Java language. Now let's see an example. It is a 2-dimensional array. I have given only 1 dimension, that is the number of rows. Then we are going to allocate the number of columns to each row. So we are using new here, int 2. So 2 columns is allocated to first row, 3 columns are allocated to the second row, 4 columns are allocated to the third row. Then we have sc object to get the value from the user. As it is a 2-dimensional array, so it needs 2 for loop. We can use the 2 for loop, or you can separately store the values in each row. It is also possible. So we are putting a separate for loop for each row because the number of columns are different. So we cannot go with the inner for loops. Outer for loop and inner for loops we are not going with. We are taking one row at a time and allocating the value to particular location. So the first row consists of only 2 columns. So we have a separate for loop here, that is I equal to 0 and I less than 2. Then use sc next int, and you can see here the number of row is fixed, it is 0. Then we have the I and num. Okay, so whatever you get the value, it will be stored in the first location. Again, for the second row, we put 0 to I is less than 3 because the second row consists of 3 columns. So you can see here, the first row there is a separate for loop, second row there is a separate for loop. Then we are using sc.next int. Here the row is fixed, that is 1, and allocating the value into this location. This is the for loop for third row, and in the third row we have the number of columns 4. So we are putting the value in each location. So again we are using sc.next int to get the value from user, and important part is we fix the third row, that is second, and it is variable because it is a I, number of columns will be vary. So num will be stored in second row and in each column. Now to display the value, we are using the same for loop. The first for loop for the first row, second for loop for the second row, third for loop for the third row. Now I am running these two programs. You can see here, this is the first program. I am running these two programs. This is array demo 5 and this is array demo 6. This is the program. In this way, in this program, I am using alternate way to declare the array, then allocate the memory new. Now we are running this program. So here it is of type character, so we are giving the character value. You can see now we have entered ADE. ADE is displaying as a output. Next, the second program, array demo 6, in which we have the number of rows 3. It is fixed, but the number of columns are different. Number of column is here 2, and number of column is 3, and number of column is 4. The program that I recently explained to you. So I am running this program. Okay. So we are going to give the value for the first row. The first row consists of only 2 columns. So we write here 4 and 5, 2 columns. Now enter the value for the second row. It consists of 3 columns. So we write here 8, 9, again 7. Now enter the value of third row. It consists of 4 columns. So it will take 4 values. For example, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. Now here you can see the value. In the first row, we have 2 columns, so there are 2 values, 4 and 5. In the second row, we have 3 columns, so there are 3 values, 8, 9, 7. In third row, we have a 4 columns, so there are 4 values, 5, 7, 8 and 9. So I run these 2 programs. One is for the alternate way to declare the array. Next program I run in the 2-dimensional array. How will you make variable number of columns for a particular row? Next I am going to discuss about multi-threading. Java array is a simple concept. Now I am going to some more important concept of the Java language is multi-threading. So first of all, what is the thread? Thread is a small program, very simple program that can run simultaneously with other programs. Suppose we have a program and it is divided into two parts. So we call as a thread 1 and thread 2. Both this program can run in parallel. So a program that can run in parallel and it is a very small part of the program, we call as a thread. Now why thread? Because thread is a lightweight process. It has a very little overheads when it is running. It is not a process. You know, in the operating system, process has the overhead, but thread is not the overhead. Very simple overhead is there. A thread can be run simultaneously with other threads also. When many threads are running at the same time, we call as a multithreading. Next, the program is, now I am going to discuss about how to implement the multithreading in Java language. So there are two very important concepts. When you are going to implement multithreading in Java, there are two methods, method 1 and method 2. In method 1, we extend the thread class. In method 2, we extend the Runnable, implement the Runnable interface. So method 1, extending with the help of thread class. Now whenever we are going to implement a multi-threading concept in Java language, there are two important things. One is run method, second is start method. Now this method must be overridden by the class. Whatever you write that should run in parallel with other code, you will write that code in the run method. Then start a thread, we need to use the start method. Now see the program. It is a class T1, extend thread, then we have a run method. Now important, you want to run this program simultaneously with other code, so whatever you want to put should run in other part, then put all the code in a run method. So we have a try catch block and we have a for loop to display n equal to 5 to n is greater than 0, displaying the child thread n. Then we are using thread.sleep 1000 millisecond to observe the output. If there is any error in this code, it will be catch. So the run method is used to put the code that you want to run simultaneously with the other code. Next, we have a class test. Then we have a main method. First of all, we have to create a thread. So we already created a class that extends the thread. So we need to create the object of T1, then thread will be created. So we have an object A of type T1. So this object is created. Now to start this thread, we need to use the start method. So there is a dot start method. So when we are putting a dot start, this thread will be start. Now you can see that this for loop of T1 class and this for loop of main method, both this for loop will run simultaneously. So we have a for loop for T1 class, then we have a for loop for main method. All both for loop are running simultaneously. Now I am running this program of extending the thread. So you can observe both the for loop are running simultaneously. We can see in the program. Now you can see here it is a T1 class, extend the thread. Then in the run method we have a for loop. Again in the main method we have a for loop. Now one thread is created with the help of object A. Now thread is started, a dot start method. So when run this program, the output of both the for loop will be random, unpredictable, because both the for loop are running simultaneously. You can see we have a main, then child, then main, then child, sometime child, sometime two main method. So here the output is not predictable because both the for loops are running simultaneously. Again I am running this program, you can see that the output will not be same. Main child, again main child, then again 2 times child. So this is the concept of multi-threading. So whenever you want to create a thread, there are two important methods. When you want to create a thread, so there are two important methods. One is run method, second is start method. Now in the run method, you will put the code that you want to make simultaneously run with the other code. So the code which is within the run method will run at the same time with the other codes. So in this case we have a two thread. One thread is we call as a object A, second is main thread. You know very well one thread is always running, which is called the main thread. When we create an object of A, in this case we are running the two threads. Now second method to implement the multi-threading is with the help of Runnable interface. It is an interface, so we are not going to extend it. We are going to implement it. So we have a class T1 implements Runnable. Runnable is an interface, therefore we are using here implements. Now we have a run method. I already told in the run method you will put the code that will run simultaneously with the other code. Now we have a run method, then we have a for loop, as already discussed, not going in detail right now. What is the meaning of for loop is here. Then we have a main method. Now main method is very important. When you are going to implement the multi-threading with the help of Runnable interface, then you create the object of T1 class. So it is a T1 class. We have created the object of T1 class. If at the same time you will write a.start, it will not work. You need to wrap this object with the thread object. Therefore, we are using here creating an object of T of type thread, and we are wrapping the object A. It is something different when we extend the thread. You can see here, when we are extending the thread class, then in main method no need for any wrapping. You can directly start from a.start. But if you are using Runnable interface, then very important part is you cannot directly start from a.start. You need to create the object of thread class and make a wrapping of A in this thread class. Then only you can start a method. So we have a t.start. Now the thread will be start. I think you know the difference between whenever we are using the Runnable interface, when we are using extending a thread. Now look for the main method. We have a for loop. So I already told this for loop and the for loop, for example, this one first, this one second. These two for loops will run at the same time simultaneously, and the output is unpredictable. Next I am going to discuss about one more example is to create the three threads. Suppose we have a class T1 with the help of implements Runnable. Any guess? So I got a question, what is the advantage of declaring array of different types? Basically, the array can be defined of similar types only. Similar types. For example, array of integer, array of float, array of characters. But the type will be same, but number of columns can be different. If you asking about the number of columns, so that depends upon your requirement. As the problem need different number of columns, then you can implement. But the type will be same. Type in the array meaning is the data type of every location will be same. So I discuss about this question. Next, back to the multi-threading concept. So I am going to discuss about creating 3 threads. Any idea to student how many objects will be created? Just write on chat box. If you are going to create the 3 threads, how many objects will be created? Yes, any student? Okay. Now we have a T1 implements Runnable. Now to create the 3 threads, we need to create the 3 objects. The first object is A1. Next, we have created the object of T1 of type thread. I already told when we implement the Runnable interface, then we need to wrap the object in T1 thread class. Otherwise, it will not run. So we have created an object of A1 type T1. Then we are creating an object of T1 of type thread. And here we are wrapping the object of A1. And we can provide the name of the thread also like first thread. So second parameter will define the name of the threads. Then we are using T1 dot start. Next, to create the second thread, again second object is created A2. That is T1 A2 of type T1. Then we are creating the T2 object of type thread. Then we have T2 dot start. Next, to create the third thread, we need to create A3 object. Now to wrap this A3 object in a thread class, we have to use thread T3. T3, then we are wrapping A3 in the T3 and we are providing the name of the thread. So you can see here we have created 3 threads with the help of 3 objects, A1, A2 and A3. And we are wrapping this A1 object with the help of T1 object. T1 object is of type thread. If you are not creating the T1 object of type thread, then T1 dot start will not work. Then A1 is wrapped in the T1, A2 is wrapped in T2 and A3 is wrapped in T3. Next, so this is the for loop of main. So this for loop will run simultaneously with the for loop of T1 class. Now I am running these 2 programs, running the program of Runnable interface and running the program of 3 threads. See the running of these 2 programs. Now you can see here we have T1 implements Runnable, then we have a run method here and for loop is defined. I already explained the for loop, just simple, it is a display the number from 5 to 1. Then we have created an object of T11. We have here for the running purpose I changed the class name is T11. Then we have T object of type thread, then start the T start and A object is wrapped with the variable T. So I already discussed this program. I am running this program. You can see the output is totally unpredictable because both the for loops are running simultaneously. We have main thread, child thread 2, then main thread 2, then child thread 2. Sometime main thread will run, sometime child thread will run. So because both the threads are running simultaneously, the output is unpredictable. Sometime child thread will get the chance to run in CPU, sometime main thread will get the chance to run in CPU. So accordingly it will run. Then I discuss about 3-thread program. This is a 3-thread program. We have a run method here, then main method. Now very important, if I talk about how many 5 threads need to be created, then how many objects are created. So suppose we have a 3 threads here, any student. If 5 threads need to be created, then how many objects should be created? Any student? Yes, any student? If 5 threads need to be created, then we have to create the 5 objects. If 10 threads need to be created, then we have to create the 10 objects. Here is a program of 3 threads, so we have created the 3 objects. So we have 3 objects, A1, A2 and A3. A1 has the name first thread, A2 has the name second thread, and A3 has the name third thread. Now I am going to run this program, 3 threads. You can see sometime it is showing child thread 1, child thread 1 is running at the same time. You can see the program output, 5 is running, then main thread 5 is running, main thread 4 is running. You can see here child thread 4 is running, child thread 3 is running, main thread 3 is running, child thread 2 is running, and child thread 1 is running. You can see the output of this program is unpredictable. It will not same in every run. It will be different. Important part is we need to create the number of objects according to number of threads, and all the threads will running the simultaneously. Now I am going to summarize my lecture. So whatever I discuss in this lecture is, I discuss what is the Java array. I just summarize the important part. In the Java array, important part is when you declare a variable, no memory is allocated. We have to use the new operator to allocate the memory. Second important part in the Java array is alternate way to create the array. Third important part in Java array is we can have the number of columns in each row differently. So we have different number of columns for each row. Next part is multithreading. So there are 2 methods to implement the multithreading. The first is with the help of extending the thread. Second is with the help of implementing the runnable interface. What is the basic difference? I am just talking about very basic difference. Both ways same, even though there is a slight differences, but presently I am going to discuss about in the coding what is the basic difference. If you extend the thread, so in main method, no need to create the object of thread class. So you can create the object of T1 and start immediately. When you implement the runnable interface, then very important part, A will not run immediately with the a.start. We have to create the object of thread. Then we need to use t.start. So we need to perform the wrapping of a variable in the object of a thread class. Then only this thread will run. Otherwise, it will not run. I hope you understand these 2 concepts, Java array and multithreading. Thank you very much.